So, dear friends, this is Sadasivam, Faculty of History from the Institute of Bureaucracy. In our series lecture, then the next topic we are going to look at Ashoka's policy of Dhamma. Ashoka was the prominent king in ancient Indian history. He played a very tremendous role in the socio-political history of India. Not only that, some of his policies actually played a very important part. Even today, it has a relevance for our society and culture. So, in this case, Ashoka's policy of Dhamma played a very important part during his tenure, and it has a tremendous influence even today also. So, in this, first we'll look at the territories which the Ashoka ruled. Okay, so it starts from the northern part of India and the northwestern part of India. We can look at those regions and all. So it covers up to the southern part here, the present day Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. It reaches over here, and even in the Bengal region, also it covers. It's a very vast area covering the Gujarat and other regions here. So it looks a very the present day Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and then Nepal, and these localities are all completely covered, excluding that present day Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So most of the places actually covered during this tenure. So what made Ashoka introduce his policy of Dhamma? One of the major war which he actually contested was the Kalinga War. We can see it was held in the year 261 BC. It held here. So the war was actually between the Ashoka and the independent state of Kalinga, the present day Odisha, and the northern portions of the present day Andhra Pradesh. So the war was actually held here. And we can say even that it was the only major battle which Ashoka fought. We can say through that inscriptions we have of Ashoka, which exposes this information here. So in this case, actually, the Kalinga War created a profound impact, not only in the lives of the people, at the same time, the Ashoka's administration and his personal belief and activities here. So even some of his policies actually after the Kalinga War made a tremendous transformation here because the devastation and the commitment he gave to the people actually completely different when it comes after that the Kalinga War. So and more importantly, after this Kalinga War, Ashoka actually renounced his violence and he embraced Buddhism. So this war actually played a very important part for Ashoka's life, and it created a lot of inputs for the socio-cultural life of a common man in the Mauryan Empire. So there are many implications we can look at regarding a Kalinga war here. The first two actually we can exactly look at that the destruction and the loss of life and suffering of religious groups. So we can see that it's exactly an impact of the direct impact of the Kalinga War, which these two things actually made Ashoka to rethink and rethink himself regarding what kind of a policy he has to adapt for the welfare of the people. So in this case, what he did actually, he shifted to the cultural conquest. Okay, so Ashoka was actually made his instead of going more on the political aspect, he wanted to be more on the cultural conquest and make the people to be more understandable and make the people to realize what exactly it's, which means a perigosha to the Dhamma kosha. He actually proposed this concept. And for this, actually, he embraced the Buddhism. So through that policy of Buddhism, he promoted the policy of Dhamma. So we can look at here. So these were the major implications which Ashoka imbibed himself, and he introduced this as a kind of a policy in his some of his major activities here. Okay. So regarding the policy of Dhamma, it's actually one of the important policy of Ashoka. Okay. Important policy of Ashoka. And more importantly, it was not neither any religious faith or particularly supporting any group of people here. It's a kind of a moral and ethical values which actually Ashoka tried to convey to their citizens and what their citizens should follow in order to avoid the conflicts which arises from the different factors. So Ashoka was very particular on this. He wanted to promote this kind of ethical and moral code of conduct among the people in order to maintain the peace and the harmony because of the sufferings and the loss of life he faced through the Kalinga War. Okay, so in this case, we can look at some of the important reasons for why he introduced this policy of Dhamma. The first one is actually that eclectic outlook. It was not, we can look at when we take it up, the Mauryan rulers, it was not only a one religious practice which they followed throughout their kingdom. Not like that. For example, that before Ashoka, the two rulers, Chandragupta Maurya and then Binduswara, then we can come for Ashoka. So the three rulers followed a three different set of religious practices. For example, Chandragupta followed Jainism, and then Binduswara followed that Ajivikas, and Ashoka followed the Buddhism. So it was a different set of religious practices and moral ethical code of conduct actually they followed here. So this eclectic outlook, which resembles that not only the ruler, even for the people also having this kind of a outlook. So in order to create a harmony among different religious and different ethical groups. So this kind of a policy was very essential for Ashoka. And then we can look at that the diversity of a belief. You can look at that in that map. First, we saw that we look at that it started from the northwestern part of India and it reached into that Bengal region and southern portions and everywhere. Geographically, socially, and more importantly, culturally, the people were actually diverse in nature. So diversified beliefs the people had. So he had to create a certain kind of a harmony in order to balance each other social practices, cultural practices, in order to maintain the kingdom in a more peaceful way. So Ashoka preferred that in order to introduce a policy of Dhamma, he can maintain some kind of a harmony in order to maintain that kingdom in a very proper way. The empire, Ashokan empire, into the very proper way, the Mauryan empire. Some of the major content of the policy of Dhamma. Before that, we just look at that how he actually spread the. Sorry. So just look at that. Some of the contents of the policy of Dhamma. Then we can come for this. So what exactly that the Ashoka's policy of Dhamma he tried to propagate? Okay, it was a general behavior. It's actually giving a kind of a orientation to the citizens. So what should follow, what should not follow, and what should be the priority, what should not be the priority. So they specifically mentioned on this aspect here, the general behavior of the people. Because he preferred that when you follow a certain kind of a general behaviors, it can avoid a conflict between the people. When the people are avoiding the conflict, probably it will, in the larger context, the kingdom or the empire would survive in a very smoothful way. Similarly, he promoted the concept of tolerance and the respect. So, respecting the elders, respecting the teachers, respecting the parents, and then respecting everyone who actually giving a more knowledgeable inputs to their day-to-day life, and creating a certain tolerance into the day-to-day life. That's actually a very important aspect of Ashoka, because creating a tolerance to each and every aspect here. At least he tried to propagate these practices here in order to avoid certain kind of a conflicts among the people here. And then a non-violence and the welfare. Okay, non-violence and the welfare. So after this, realizing that what kind of sufferings will emerge after the war, after the Kalinga war, Ashoka preferred that he wanted to go for a non-violence. So he always propagated this policy of non-violence and the welfare of the people. So when we maintain that concept of a non-violence, automatically the promotion for the welfare of the people will be taken into the consideration, and automatically when the promotions of welfare happening, the people also and the country also will be more more prosperous way will go on. So then we can for the religious tolerance, he propagated this concept. Okay, religious tolerance, because the kingdom was very vast, different regions it was occupied, and the different religious beliefs existed. Even the even that Mauryan empires, Mauryan rulers actually followed a different set of religious practices. So apart from that, also we can see that different religious practices existed over a period of time. So what he preferred, that he wanted to create a religious tolerance among the people, because most of the conflict that time actually started to emerge through the religious conflict, the small conflict. It may lead into a different set of issues which the country can face. So Ashoka preferred this aspect that he wanted to create a certain kind of a tolerance, a religious tolerance among the people in order to avoid the conflicts here. So where through what are the vehicles at Ashoka he used in order to propagate this policy of Dhamma here. So in this actually Ashoka used primarily for his edicts. Okay, the major rock edicts, the minor rock edicts, and all other inscriptions of Ashoka plays a very important part, because inscriptions in those days reached every part of the country, and it is instructing the people through these inscriptions, Ashoka, what should be the order of the ruler. So when the ruler is actually propagating this kind of a concepts, so the people should obey that. The people should follow that. Okay, this kind of a regular instructions actually through the inscriptions Ashoka actually propagated. And then we can for addressing to the Buddhist Sangha. So through the Buddhist Sangha, through the Buddhist monks, Ashoka propagated this policy of the Dhamma. Even there are certain people named Dhammayatras. Okay, so he appointed a certain people for propagating that idea of Dhamma. So in order to propagate the idea of Dhamma, he used this. He had actually made the people to realize that what speciality of Dhamma. Okay, then we can come for some of the Buddhist scriptures. Actually, we can do those scriptures actually giving a very detailed information about so how the Ashoka propagated the policy of Buddha, because he sent that emissary to that other countries also. He sent emissaries to the different parts of the country in his empire. Actually, he sent the different emissaries, and those people actually propagated the ideas of the Dhamma. That played a very important part for in order to make that a certain kind of unity among the people, and realize that what kind of day-to-day life they have to lead in order to maintain that tolerance and the other aspects. So, what major impacts actually we can look at here, and some of the major impact implications of the policy of Dhamma. We can look at that. Historic Roblath offers specifying his work on the Ashoka and his empire, and how this policy of Dhamma plays a very important part here. It was in a cosmopolitan in nature. So when we go to look at Ashoka's empire, the Mauryan empire during the time of Ashoka, it was cosmopolitan in nature. Different races, different religion existed over a period of time. So he had to maintain a certain kind of a balance to maintain a peace and prosperity in the country. So for this, actually, he realized that this policy of Dhamma would be a more appropriate option to maintain the kingdom in a more effective way, and more importantly, a peaceful and prosperous way. Okay, prosperous way. Okay, so thank you.